Hey guys, it's Kelsey. I'm back with another scrapbooking process video, and today is scrap 5, so I have to use a punch border, cardstock base, inked edges, something new, and sequins. So this is a great recipe. It worked great with my kit this month, so I was really excited. I have one color cardstock background left, so I am going to go ahead and use the pink. But per usual, I love the scallop detail that comes on the bottom of Felicity Jane cardstock, so I am just going to use a strip of white at the bottom part of the page so that you can see that scalloped detail. But I'm planning on that being my background cardstock, and then I went ahead and pulled in my Catherine Pooler Stone Blue ink as my ink for all the edges because I'm trying to do this pink and blue color scheme on this one with little pops of green, and so I thought this blue would be a nice soft one to ink with. So I'm inking around the white mat I put around my picture, and then I'm going to ink around the entire outside. I ink the first couple of layers and then completely forget after that. But I have my inked edges, so I'm okay. My something new is this really precious heart cut file that Lisa sent me. She got one of those, is it the Cricut Joy? I can't remember. It's one of the new electronic die cutting machine that kind of just does smaller die cuts. And she sent me a whole bunch of stuff because she was practicing. And she sent me a bunch of really sweet cut files. And I'm so excited. Wait till you guys see the one with the golden retriever cut file. It is so cute. But for this wedding one, I really thought this white heart cut file was perfect. That's my something new that I'm going to get on here. So I'm kind of planning about it like arcing around the right side of my photo over here. I'm not quite sure. I know I want a good size mat of this blue. This blue has all the colors from the collection, but it's predominantly navy. So I really like the contrast with the pink. This is my wedding bouquet, a close-up of the wedding bouquet, so I definitely wanted a page to really show off some of my favorite parts of this bouquet. I told my florist I kind of wanted this rustic, romantic feel. I showed her a bunch of Pinterest pictures and kind of told her that I wanted it varying shades of pink, a lot of like sagey green colors. So the lamb's ears that are in this are really beautiful and soft. And she incorporated some dried flowers that looked really nice. I love my bouquet. So I really wanted a whole page just for the bouquet. And there's a lot in this one picture. So I am planning on this one being a more minimalist page so that your eye can kind of just rest on the photo and look at all those little details without being too overwhelmed with too many other layers. I'm going to go ahead and get my 12 by 12 here so you can kind of see where I glued a strip of white to the bottom, and then I just trimmed off the remainder of the pink cardstock off of the top. And then this is kind of what I'm going with. I do have this scallop border on the cardstock. There is a recipe item to do a punched border, but because I fussy cut that and didn't punch it, I really didn't want to count it. So I am planning on having this lighter blue and white plaid branding strip. I'm going to use my scallop border punch on that one. So it kind of pulls the scallop up into the layers, and that way I can use an actual border punch for a decorative edge. So I'm going around and inking everything in that blue ink. It takes me a while. This ink pad is really trying to die on me. I was determined to use it because it was the best color ink pad I had for this page. So I'm just doing that really quick. I did get some more ink dauber heads, so I actually have an ink dauber for every color of ink I have now, which is nice. So I'm just going around and doing that. I was planning originally on this one being super layery. You can kind of see all of the blue and pink scraps to the left there that I had pulled out to potentially used. But as I started layering and I started seeing like how busy the photo itself is, that's kind of when I decided I wanted to keep it more minimalist. And I also didn't want to distract from this beautiful heart cut file. So that's kind of my plan. But I love the idea of having this lighter blue scallop branding strip running across my layers at the bottom of the photo. I think it kind of grounds everything. I was thinking about this blue layer kind of being longer, but once I put it on the page, I was kind of like, I want more layers than that. And also this floral can look very busy, and it is the one right next to the photo. So I kind of wanted to layer with something more subdued that didn't have as much contrast with the background. So I'll kind of tweak that a little bit, but I'm loving the look of this. I thought about having that floral mat go all the way around the picture, but that gap was bothering me. So I actually scooched up that branding strip so it ran on the bottom of that photo. And I think that looks better to the eye without having that gap of pattern paper. But I'm thinking that I will have a mini cluster over here to the left, kind of sitting on that branding strip. I think that looks really cute. I'm trying to pull in the different blue and pink elements. At this point, I'm not planning on pulling in any green, but as we get going, I kind of felt like it's a bouquet and there's a lot of green in the picture. And there's green on the floral pattern paper, so I thought it would be actually okay to have a couple small pops of green. So you'll see me pull that in a bit, but I did just gut the middle portion of that mat. I'm going to glue down my picture, and then this is where you'll kind of see I decide to shorten this layer instead of it being so long. I just tore the bottom of it, so I have that nice torn subtle detail that adds a little bit of texture, but that allows me to do a more vertical mat with my scraps and still fit in this space that I'm planning on all my layers being. So I think that looks really sweet. I got the branding strip down. I got this little tab down. I'm planning on doing some little clustering on that little label, but I do want to use the lines on that to do a little bit of journaling. But I saw with how I was trying to layer this heart cut file that some of the hearts, or one of the hearts, would be covered up. So I did just cut that heart that was going to be covered up so I could use it on another area of the page since it would be covered anyways. So you can kind of see I have my cut file in 3 pieces now, which actually really helps me be able to space it more around the photo like I wanted. It was fine how it was, but now that those pieces are in 2 pieces on the right, it kind of helps me get it exactly where I want it. But I'm happy with that. I'm going to tear this really quick. I just use a ruler so that my tear is straight, straight-ish. And now I am using the pink and white stripe from the 6x6 pack to do this little vertical strip. And I'm still getting what I can behind the mats because I'm still hoping, I know you're seeing this page earlier in the month because it's for the Scrap 5 collaboration, but at this point I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is my 10th layout, I think, with this collection. And I'm still hoping to get in another maybe 2. So I am kind of down on my scraps here. Not that you could tell, plus I know you're seeing it earlier in the month, but I'm still trying to gut what I can because I'm still hoping to get a couple more layouts in after this one. But I love this pink layer. I love that extra bit. There's enough white in it where it doesn't blend into the background, but I do kind of like the pink pattern, going on the pink pattern, because it gives you a little bit of rest from all the busyness of the photo and that original mat. So now that that's on there, I can kind of see where my layers are going to sit. I'm pretty happy with where it's sitting on the page, so I think I'm going to start gluing the heart cut files down. And then I will gut the pink portion behind all of these layers so I can also save that for another page. So it just takes me a second, but I kind of want to glue down these hearts. That way I can remember exactly where these layers go for when I finish gutting. So I'm just putting some Tombow Mono Multi on that stuff, and I'll glue those down. I think I'm giving it a little bit of time to dry before I stick them, that in case I have to move them a little bit, it's a little bit more forgiving. But I love just that one little heart over there by that one label cluster, and I love how this other one arcs around the right side. I just love how that looks. It's so sweet. So now that that's down, I'm going to go ahead and gut the background. And then I'm trying to remember what I do next. I know I want a title. As far as my Scrap 5 goes, I have my punched border, I have my cardstock base, I have my inked edges, I have something new. So really the only thing I have left to get on this page is the sequins. And I already knew right away I was going to use the sequins that Ali sent me. They're called Ballet Slipper, and it's the softest, prettiest pink with a little bit of shimmer. And I just knew as soon as we had to use sequins, I was going to use those. I do have some Felicity Jane sequins. I think they're from the Jenny collection, but I couldn't not use Ali's sequins. I just thought they were softer and more appropriate for this kind of wedding page. So you can kind of see me gutting here. I'm really glad I did that because there's quite a large chunk of that solid I now have for another page. I hoard the Felicity Jane solids like nothing else because you only get 2 in your pack and they're double-sided. So the back of this is the mustard. So I want to definitely save everything I can because the solids in Felicity Jane I feel like I really use a lot of. I use almost every scrap of the solids. But now I'm just gluing my kind of background black cardstock to the back to kind of fill the gaps and keep it a little bit sturdier. I really don't have issues with sturdiness. Like if I wasn't going to do that. It's fine once it's in the album, but I just prefer being able to have a background to stick all these layers onto. So that's why I just started doing that. I have so much of this black cardstock in my stash because it's what comes preloaded in my page protectors. I literally have hundreds of this cheap black paper. So I figured I might as well use it to back all these layouts. I did accidentally tear this one little heart when I was gutting the background, so I'm just re-gluing it down. You really can't tell, but I definitely want to make sure I fix that. And now I think I'm trying to figure out embellishment-wise what I want to do. I kind of don't know what I want to do with my title. I forgot to ink this striped layer here, so I go back and I try to ink it on the page. But I think that's the last thing I remember to ink. I don't think I ink anything else. But all the big layers are done. It's really just the final embellishment type of stuff that I add and forget to ink. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't think you really notice. All right, ink pad's done. And now I'm going through the kind of ephemera on the left there. I really kind of go back and forth on the little photo corners. You get 2 of these photo corners that's in this blue floral that I keep going back and forth on. I definitely want to use a good chunk of the sticker sheet. So I did pull off a pink banner with a light blue heart and a floral cluster, and that kind of layered all that together as my embellishment on this little label, which I think is super cute. I'm trying to figure out if there's anything else on that sticker sheet I can use, but I'm pretty happy with that little cluster for now. So now I'm trying to figure out what other pieces I can add. I thought about doing the photo corners on these 2 corners here, and then I thought, well, I have this kind of white portion on the bottom of the page with the scallop and nothing on the top of the page, so I decided to do the photo corners on the corners of the layout instead, which I'm still kind of hemming and hawing about. I'm not sure if I like it, but once I glue them down, I tried to take them off towards the end because I decided not to do them and they're stuck. So I'm not tearing my paper. I'm just going to leave it and roll with it. I do like that it adds that additional pattern because the blue floral is just the mat around the photo. It's not anywhere else. So I kind of do like that navy is pulled into those 2 corners. But I do go back and forth on if I like that or not. But either way, they're glued down. They're not coming up. So I tried to pull one of them and it was, you could tell on the paper where I removed it. So they're staying. I do want one more cluster, and I kind of decide here that this is where I want to pull in a couple pops of green. I have a couple scraps of this solid green from a pocket card that I decided would be nice if I just tucked it into a couple clusters as a little banner. So I did trim this into a fishtail banner, and that will come out from that bottom cluster. And then I realized once I want to move this bottom cluster a tiny bit to the left. And once I do that, I cover up so much of the fishtail, I decide to use the smaller scrap for that fishtail and use that longer banner in another cluster. So you'll see me swap them out really quick. But I think after that, this little cluster down here is done other than my journaling and my sequins. I definitely want another cluster somewhere. And that was kind of the issue I was having with making it make sense. The first couple places I tried to add it, it was just distracting. It didn't flow well. You can see I'm trying to use the rest of this light blue branding strip too. I really want that color and that pattern in a secondary area, so it's not just this one branding strip that's that color. So this other green banner and this other branding strip, I really want to be in my second cluster wherever that ends up. I decide to switch to my title really quick because I don't really know what to do with that other cluster. So I pulled out my freckled fawn green tile alphas just because now that I'm pulling in green, I think that it would make sense to use that as my title since there's so much blue and pink. So I am just calling this Bouquet. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I kind of feel like that's all I needed to say. I do in my journaling, the biggest thing on this page and in this photo, I love that I had my grandparents' rosary for my wedding because they couldn't make it. My grandpa has passed away and my grandma couldn't travel. She's up in Minnesota, and obviously this is still during COVID and all of that. So I was really adamant that I have the rosary that they gifted me. I'm pretty sure it was for my first communion with me. It's rose quartz, which I thought went really well with the pinks that are in my bouquet and in my color scheme of the wedding. So I love that the photographer took this photo of my bouquet with this rosary kind of draped across it. And the little cross is kind of tucked into that pink rose. And I just thought it was so beautiful. So that I do want to make sure to mention that in my journaling because that's a very important part of this photo. But now that that is down, I'm again struggling with the second cluster. I know what I want the cluster to look like. I'm just struggling with trying to figure out where to put it. And this is where I try to take off that one corner piece to maybe do the cluster up there instead. But I realized pretty quickly that it was obvious that there was glue there and it was distracting on the soft pink solid background. So I was like, okay, never mind. The corners are staying. But I do like the idea of it being in the upper right hand area because it is opposite of the second cluster. So I decided just to do it in the upper right hand corner of the photo versus the entire layout, which I like. I really think this frames this photo nicely. You can see I used the other piece of the branding strip. Again, I used the same scallop border punch, the other green banner, and now I'm going back to the sticker sheet to pull in a couple more floral stickers. So I'm doing 2 florals, and the smaller flower I'm just popping up on some foam so there's a little bit of dimension. And now I'm trying to figure out with my sequins, my hands are really staticky and the sequins are sticking to my fingers. So that's what all that flicking was about. But once I kind of dumped the sequins on the page, I realized I just wanted the softer pink. There's a really beautiful rose goldy pink in the sequin mix as well. But this page is so light, and I really like the minimalistic look of the light sequins. So I'm doing just light sequins. And I kind of thought I would do a scatter kind of across the whole embellishment area. But again, I think with wanting to keep this page more simplistic, I decided just to use my sequins the way I would enamel dots and just do 3 little clusters of 3 in kind of each in a triangular pattern around the picture. So I do have a cluster of 3 by both clusters and 1 down by the title. And I think that's a really soft, light finishing touch. I actually don't use the chipboard hearts on this one because I was really trying to get the rest of the heart stickers from the sticker sheet used up instead. So I really am just using these sequins as my finishing touch, which is a nice little soft detail. So I'm just gluing all 3 of those down. And then after that, I think I stick the final heart from the sticker sheet up in that other cluster. I have the blue heart sticker in the bottom left-hand cluster, so I'm adding the pink one to the upper right-hand because there's a heart in each of them. And then I'll do my journaling in green on this little label. So it says, I loved my rustic romantic bouquet with my rosary from Grandpa and Grandma. So I think that's pretty sweet. And that's pretty much it. This is a kind of a softer, simpler page, but I really wanted the photo to shine on this one. I got my recipe. So here are the close-ups. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you check out everyone else playing along with Scrap 5. And if you want to play along with this recipe, tag us on Instagram, #Scrap5. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.